Okay. So, I'm Elias Torres, and today I'm going to be talking about curiosity. That's it. That's all I'm talking about. Okay. So, what is curiosity? Its official definition, according to Merriam-Webster, it's a strong desire to know or learn something. My definition is that thing that makes you Google questions online. I think it's the coolest thing ever. Nowadays, if you have a question to something, you can just look it up and have the answer to it. Before, you'd have to go to a library, read a book, but now getting information is almost instantaneous. Nowadays, finding answers to our questions has become easier than ever, thanks to search engines and user-generated content created by the people, for the people. That's the beautiful thing about being human. We wonder, and that leads to our thirst for never-ending answers. That's what curiosity is. So, funny enough, curiosity is the leading cause for learning. Learning is something that occurs every day. It occurs spontaneously, and is triggered by one sole thing: curiosity. Whenever humans need an answer to something, they look for it. This is how some of mankind's greatest innovations were created. Solve some sort of problem. Things like cell phones, cars, planes, basically everything we use was created to solve some sort of problem. Now, an individual's curiosity is led by a certain set of interests they acquire throughout their lifetime. But due to the limitations of the school system, it's become impossible to pursue these interests. Rather than allowing the mind to ponder on these topics and to look for answers on its own, information has basically been force-fed to students. It's been force-fed to students in a manner that's similar to making an English major learn rocket science. Instead of letting students direct their full focus on mastering these skills that they're good at, primary education has created the grading system, which requires students to divide their attention amongst a variety of topics. And many students have little interest in these topics. As long as your grade stands above 70, you can pass your classes and advance to the next level of your academic career. As a result, this has created a system in which students are being taught how to take tests and memorize large quantities of information. So instead of mastering these concepts, they're basically not memorizing them at all. And that's not what learning is. So this may be one of the reasons why America is ranked one of the lowest when it comes to test scores. Training students how to answer certain questions does not test for understanding. And that leads to a lack of comprehension or even long-term memory recollection. So, how do we reverse the effects of this? Well, the answer is actually pretty simple. Let students discover and solve problems based on their own stimulated curiosity. In the age of hyperinformation, learning something is as simple as Googling it, watching a video, etc. Now more than ever, there's a vast amount of resources to where there is no excuse to not being able to learn the answer to something. Of course, take everything you see on the internet with a grain of salt. But there is an endless amount of knowledge, experience, and facts in the sea of information. Looking something up is the equivalent to independent research. You're looking for answers to questions in a very accessible manner. If students were allowed to openly learn about things they were passionate about, I believe they would be able to master that concept. Now we get to my story. Every year, students in my high school participate in a project called Senor X, which is just like TEDx, where we get to research whatever we want and come up with a product at the end of the year to show what we learned. My problem was I had so much I was interested in, and I had no idea what to pursue. So what I ended up doing was just learning what I wanted to. The first thing I ended up learning was entirely by coincidence. My friends and I are a bunch of nerds when it comes to hip-hop music. As young rebels, we love it. The project one of my friends was working on, he's actually in the crowd right now, he wanted to create a mixtape. So one day he needed a ride to another friend's house, and I ended up being his rider. And so they were trying to produce music, and I watched as these two were working together to make a full-length amateur demo. I ended up sticking around that day, and I watched as these two made music. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever. It was awesome. I watched as these two sat in a room, and they were just on a little laptop creating beats, and it was crazy. And so, with the help of a friend who I'll refer to by his alias DJ Loki, I ended up learning a little bit of music theory. I ended up learning how to make beats. Over the course of a month, I went from not knowing anything to be able to produce a full-length track. And actually, up here, there's a little picture. It's like a little sound cloud. That's a song I ended up making myself. It's not the best, but I like it. So, I'm no expert when it comes to making music, but it's something I learned by myself, and I thought it was really cool, and I continue to do it to this day. But I didn't stop there. I still had a bunch more I wanted to learn. I've always loved video games, and this love has led me to accomplish two things. First of all, I've always wanted to build a beefy computer. For most of you in the audience, you probably don't know this, but it's actually really difficult to run high-end games. You need a lot of processing power to run these games. And so, I wanted to create a really expensive computer to run these games. So, I was never able to accomplish this because I didn't have money. But now that I had the time and a semi-stable income from a job, I was able to do just that. Now, I've never built a computer before, but if there's one thing I learned, it's the easiest thing to do, and you can save a lot of money by just making your own. But that's besides the point. So I watched a couple of YouTube videos, I visited a couple of tech blogs, and within a couple of hours, I knew what I needed to buy and how to assemble it. With some assistance from a friend, I was able to complete building my computer before midnight hit. And, and so these two pictures right here are, that's the computer before I put the parts in, and that's the computer after it was done. And it functions perfectly well, it doesn't crash or anything, it's great. So the final thing that my love for video games brought was, it finally led me to attempt to create my own. Thanks to the help of a website called Codeorg, I ended up making some of my own games. Now, one of the games I ended up making, which is nowhere near complete, it's a basic text adventure game where you just choose your own fate, and that's a picture of it right there. That's like a picture of the title screen. It's pretty basic, it's nothing impressive, but with my current knowledge, it was the best I could do. So, throughout my learning experience, I came to a realization. Everything I learned stemmed from curiosity. I took things I was interested in, and I learned from there on my own. And you know what? Not once did it feel like I was learning. It just felt natural. I was having fun, and that's all that mattered. And in this 1 year I spent learning, I had the most fun in my 4 years I spent in high school. That childlike awe and wonder I had when learning came back, and each moment felt magical. The same can be said about all the people that presented up here today, and along with every other TED speaker worldwide. We were all curious and came up with our own answers to things we were passionate about. So, this is what I think is lacking in the educational system. The ability for students to have some time in school to pursue things they're interested in. Because you never know what great innovations they might come up with. So this is where I ask you, the listeners, to find what you're interested in, and just do it. You have plenty of resources and opportunities. Take advantage of them, because you never know what you will be able to achieve with the knowledge you acquire. Learning begins with curiosity, and as long as students are curious, they will retain information that they come across with, and will brighten their journey for not only their furthered education, but but also the rest of their lives. Now I'll leave you all with a quote from Albert Einstein that sums up my research pretty well. "I have no special talent. I am only passionately curious." Thank you.